The humid Texas evening of August 3rd, 1987, hung heavy over the Astrodome in Houston like a velvet curtain waiting to be pulled back on the most unexpected duet the music world would ever witness. Inside the massive stadium, 50,000 people sat in a cathedral of anticipation, their voices creating a low rumble that vibrated through the concrete structure like distant thunder. The air conditioning struggled against the collective body heat and excitement of the crowd, while outside, the summer heat shimmered off the parking lot asphalt in waves that made the horizon dance with possibility. This was supposed to be Madonna's concert, part of her Who's That Girl World Tour, but rumors had been circulating for hours through the crowd like wildfire through dry grass. Someone had spotted Michael Jackson's entourage at the airport. His black limousine had been seen pulling into the venue's back entrance. Security guards whispered into their radios with the urgent energy that only comes when something unprecedented is about to happen, and the audience could feel in their bones that electric tension that precedes moments that will be remembered for decades. Madonna had taken the stage in her signature provocative style, her blonde hair wild with hairspray and rebellion, wearing a black corset that caught the stage lights like armor designed for battle against convention. She had blazed through her hits with the fierce energy that had made her the most controversial and beloved pop star of the decade, her voice cutting through the humid air like a blade as she commanded the stage with the confidence of someone who had fought for every inch of her success. The crowd sang along to Like a Virgin and Material Girl, with the devotion of disciples reciting sacred texts, their voices joining hers in a chorus that seemed to shake the very foundations of the Astrodome. But as she finished, "Papa, Don't Preach," something shifted in the atmosphere of the arena. The lights dimmed to an amber glow that seemed to make the entire space hold its breath, and Madonna walked slowly to the edge of the stage, her expression transforming from performer to something more vulnerable, more human. She looked out over the sea of faces, 50,000 souls hanging on her every movement, and when she spoke, her voice carried a gentleness that few had ever heard from the Queen of Pop. "Tonight," she said, her words echoing through the sound system with crystalline clarity, "I want to share something with you that I've never shared before. This tour has taken me to cities across America, and in every city, I've met children who are fighting battles that no child should ever have to fight. I visited hospitals where kids are lying in beds, dreaming of dancing again, dreaming of singing again, dreaming of just being kids again." The crowd grew quieter with each word, sensing that this was not part of the planned show, that they were witnessing something spontaneous and deeply personal. Madonna's band members exchanged glances from their positions on stage, understanding that their carefully rehearsed set list was about to be abandoned for something more important than entertainment. 3 days ago, Madonna continued, her voice growing stronger with emotion, "I visited Texas Children's Hospital right here in Houston. I met a little girl named Sarah who told me that her biggest dream wasn't to meet me or any other celebrity. Her biggest dream was to see Michael Jackson and Madonna perform together, because she said that would prove that anything was possible, even for a little girl who might not make it to her 10th birthday." The silence that fell over the Astrodome was profound, the kind of silence that 50,000 people create when they collectively stop breathing, when every individual heart in the arena begins beating in synchronization with a shared understanding that something magical is about to unfold. Madonna's eyes glistened with tears that caught the stage lights like diamonds, and when she looked toward the side of the stage, every person in the arena followed her gaze. Michael Jackson emerged from the shadows like a figure stepping out of a dream, wearing his iconic black fedora and a silver sequin jacket that seemed to capture and amplify every light in the arena. He moved with that fluid grace that had made him the most recognizable performer on the planet. But tonight, there was something different in his step, a purposefulness that spoke of mission rather than mere performance. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming, a roar that seemed to come from the very core of the earth, 50,000 voices joining together in a sound that was part scream, part cry of joy, part prayer of gratitude. Madonna extended her hand toward Michael, and when he took it, the simple gesture sent another wave of emotion through the crowd. These two titans of pop music, who had redefined what it meant to be an entertainer, who had challenged conventions and broken barriers and inspired millions, stood together on that stage like old friends reuniting after a long separation, their combined presence creating an energy that seemed to make the very air shimmer with possibility. "Sarah couldn't be here tonight," Michael said, his distinctive voice carrying clearly through the arena. "But she's watching from her hospital room, and I want her to know that dreams don't have expiration dates, that magic doesn't follow schedules, and that sometimes the most beautiful performances happen when two people decide that love is more important than competition." What happened next would be talked about for generations, dissected by music historians and cultural critics. But those who were present would always insist that no amount of analysis could capture the pure emotional truth of the moment. Michael and Madonna, without any rehearsal, without any planning, began to sing "The Way You Make Me Feel" together, their voices weaving together like threads in a tapestry of spontaneous harmony that seemed to transform the massive arena into an intimate space where vulnerability and strength could coexist. Madonna's voice, usually sharp with attitude and rebellion, softened to blend with Michael's ethereal tone, creating something entirely new, something that belonged neither to him nor to her, but to the space between them, where collaboration transcends competition. Michael's moonwalk across the stage was answered by Madonna's voguing, their different styles of movement creating a conversation in dance that spoke of respect, admiration, and the kind of artistic communication that happens when ego steps aside to make room for pure creative expression. The crowd was no longer simply watching a performance. They were witnessing a moment of genuine human connection amplified to the scale of stadium spectacle. Tears streamed down faces throughout the arena as people realized they were seeing something that would never happen again, a spontaneous collaboration between two artists who had spent their careers being compared to each other, pitted against each other, but who had chosen this moment to demonstrate that there was room in the universe for all kinds of genius. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories about the moments when music transcends entertainment to become a force of healing and hope. As the song reached its climax, Michael and Madonna moved toward each other at center stage, and in a gesture that would be replayed in slow motion on television screens around the world, they embraced, not as performers putting on a show, but as human beings sharing a moment of mutual recognition and respect. The embrace lasted only seconds, but it contained years of unspoken understanding about the price of fame, the responsibility of influence, and the power of choosing love over rivalry. When they separated, Michael reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a single white glove, the glove that had become his signature, his trademark, the object that symbolized his unique place in the pantheon of pop music. Without speaking, he handed the glove to Madonna, and she accepted it with the reverence of someone receiving a sacred relic. The crowd understood immediately that they were witnessing the passing of something significant, not a changing of the guard, but a recognition of shared legacy. Madonna held the glove to her heart, then raised it high above her head so that everyone in the arena could see it. The roar that erupted from the crowd was different from the earlier sounds of excitement. This was something deeper, something that spoke to the human need to witness moments when symbols become reality, when gestures carry the weight of history, when two people at the pinnacle of their profession choose to celebrate each other rather than compete. "This glove," Madonna said, her voice carrying clearly through the arena despite the emotion that made it tremble slightly, "will go to Sarah at Texas Children's Hospital, along with a promise that she will always have two people in this world who believe in the power of her dreams." The performance that followed was unlike anything either artist had ever done before or would ever do again. They sang each other's songs, traded verses, harmonized on melodies that had never been meant for duets, creating a spontaneous concert within a concert that felt like the musical equivalent of a conversation between old friends who had finally found the time to really talk. Michael's "Billie Jean" became a duet with Madonna, adding her own interpretation to the familiar lyrics, while Madonna's, like a prayer, gained new dimensions when filtered through Michael's ethereal vocal style. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when they stood together at the edge of the stage, looking out over the 50,000 faces that stared back at them with expressions of wonder, gratitude, and pure joy. Without any musical accompaniment, they began to sing "We Are the World," the song Michael had co-written and organized years earlier. But now it carried new meaning as these two artists who represented different approaches to pop stardom united their voices in service of the message that music could be a force for healing in a broken world. The audience joined in, 50,000 voices rising to meet theirs, creating a sound that seemed to lift the roof off the Astrodome and carry into the Houston night sky like a prayer made audible. People throughout the arena linked arms with strangers, swayed together in rhythm, wiped tears from each other's faces, understanding that they were not just attending a concert, but participating in a moment of collective healing, a demonstration of the power of music to dissolve the barriers that separate us from each other. As the evening wound down and the time came for farewells, Michael and Madonna stood together one final time, their hands clasped, their faces radiant with the joy that comes from having given everything to a moment and received everything back multiplied. They bowed together, rose together, and when they finally separated to leave the stage, they did so slowly, reluctantly, like actors leaving a play that they never wanted to end. The crowd remained on their feet long after both artists had disappeared into the wings, applauding not just the performance they had witnessed, but the demonstration they had received about the possibility of choosing collaboration over competition, love over rivalry, shared humanity over manufactured division. The sound of their appreciation echoed through the Astrodome for nearly 20 minutes after the last note had been sung, a testament to the power of authentic moments in a world that often felt scripted and artificial. In the days that followed, the footage of that evening would become some of the most watched video in music history. Critics would analyze every note, every gesture, every meaningful glance. But those who had been present would always insist that no recording could capture the full impact of being in that arena when two of the most powerful forces in popular music chose to use their influence in service of something larger than themselves. Sarah, the little girl at Texas Children's Hospital, received not only Michael's white glove, but also a personal visit from both artists the following day. The photograph of her sitting between Michael and Madonna, wearing the white glove and grinning with the irrepressible joy of a child whose impossible dream had come true, would hang in the hospital's pediatric ward for decades, inspiring other young patients to believe in the possibility of their own miracles. Years later, when music historians looked back on that evening in Houston, they would identify it as a turning point in popular culture, a moment when manufactured rivalries and artificial competitions that drove music industry marketing gave way, however briefly, to a demonstration of what was possible when artists chose to celebrate each other's gifts rather than compete for limited space in the spotlight. But for those who were there, for the 50,000 hearts that were melted by what they witnessed, the significance was simpler and more profound. They had seen two human beings at the height of their powers choose love over fear, collaboration over competition. In doing so, they had proven that the most powerful performances happen not when artists try to diminish each other, but when they find ways to make each other shine more brightly. The white glove that Michael gave to Madonna that night eventually found its way to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, displayed alongside a photograph from the Houston concert and a handwritten note from Sarah that simply read, "Thank you for proving that magic is real." But the real monument to that evening lived on in the memories of everyone who was present, in the understanding that they had witnessed something that transcended entertainment to become a lesson in the power of human connection, the possibility of choosing love over rivalry, and the magic that happens when two bright lights decide to shine together rather than separately, creating something more beautiful than either could accomplish alone.